Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com. Today we're going to make a carrot cake with cream cheese frosting, and this is what it looks like. This cake has 2 layers. It is moist and it is flavorful. We have grated carrot in it. We also have some chopped nuts, crushed pineapple, and it's also flavored with some ground cinnamon. And then what we're going to do is fill it and frost it with this delicious cream cheese frosting. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need 2 9-inch, that's 23 centimeter, round cake pans. And you want them to have be 2 inches deep, which is about 5 centimeters. And then you can either butter the inside of your pan, or today I'm just going to spray it with one of these non-stick sprays. And then I like to make extra sure that our cake does not stick to the pan. So I'm taking this round of parchment paper and just putting that on the bottom, like so. There you go, I've already done the other one. So now, for the batter, if you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment, or you could use a hand mixer for this. Now, before we start, you want to make sure you have all your ingredients out. And you will need, obviously it's a carrot cake, we need some grated carrot. You will need 2.5 cups of grated carrot. Now, that you need to start with about 340 grams, which is 3/4 of a pound of raw grated or raw and peeled carrot. And you can grate your carrot either like on a box grater, or if you're lucky enough to have the blade for your food processor, it makes quick work to do that. So you have that, and then we're also you'll need 1 cup of either, I'm using walnuts today, but pecans are very good as well. So 1 cup, 100 grams. I do like to toast my nuts first because I find it really brings out their flavor. You don't have to. If you prefer to use raw, that's fine. So to toast them, just put them on a baking sheet, put them in the oven for about 8 minutes, just until you start to smell them, and then let them cool, and then coarsely chop them. And the other thing you will need is crushed pineapple. You need 1 8-ounce can, 227 grams of crushed pineapple, and I did drain that. So just have those things ready to go. And then the first thing you will need is 4 large eggs, which is 200 grams of eggs. Have your eggs at room temperature. Let's put that right in there. And then I'm just going to beat just for maybe a half a minute or something, just to get them all broken up. Okay, that's good enough. And then I'm going to add 1.5 cups, 300 grams of granulated white sugar. And for flavoring, 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of pure vanilla extract. If you don't want a vanilla flavor in your carrot cake, you can just leave that out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my mixer on medium-high, and I'm going to beat probably anywhere, depending on your mixer, 3 to 5 minutes. I want this to get really thick and light colored. So, it's going to take a few minutes. Okay, so it sure changed in that time, didn't it? So this is what you're looking for, nice and thick, light colored, beautiful. So now the fat in a carrot cake is a liquid fat. You will need 1 cup, which is 240 milliliters or 215 grams. Now we want to use a flavorless oil for this. So that could mean like a vegetable, a corn, a canola, or you could even use a safflower oil for this. And the good thing about oil as opposed to butter, because we're putting a cream cheese frosting on this cake, it does need to be refrigerated. And when you use oil, it keeps the cake really nice and moist, so you can just cut a slice and eat it right out of the refrigerator. Whereas with the butter cake, you need to bring it to room temperature because that butter gets really hard. So now I'm going to put my mixer on low speed, and I'm just going to pour my oil like in a stream down the side, and then mix it just until it's fully incorporated. Okay, so now I'm going to add my 1 8-ounce can, 227 grams of my crushed pineapple that I did drain. You know, you don't really, some recipes call for not crushed pineapple, that you could use applesauce. Some don't even have it. Sometimes I even leave it out if I don't have it. But it just adds a nice flavor, texture, adds to the moisture. So I would use it if you have it. And I'm just going to beat that in. Okay, so that's that. So now, for our dry ingredients, in a separate bowl, I have 2 cups, which is 260 grams of all-purpose flour or plain flour. Now, I will say, if you want to make this, your carrot cake like more earthy flavor, I guess you'd call it, what you can do is use 1 cup, 130 grams of all-purpose flour, and then you could use 1 cup, 130 grams of whole wheat flour, you know, if you want to do that. And so for the other things we need is 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of baking soda, 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of baking powder. I have a half a teaspoon, 2 grams of salt, and you know, ground cinnamon is in a carrot cake, 1.5 teaspoons, 2 grams of ground cinnamon. And not only does ground cinnamon give you a flavor, it also colors our batter, that beautiful brown color that carrot cakes are known for. Here, I'm just gonna, you could sift your ingredients, or I'm just using a whisk. This cake has been around, okay, a long time. I'm not sure exactly, but I will say I got the recipe from a friend in the 1970s, and I've been making like this recipe since, so this cake's been around a while. And you know what? It was always popular then. I always had to make it to all the parties and things that I went to and had at the house. But it's still really popular, so that kind of says how good this tastes. So I'm going to put all my flour in there. And I'm going to low speed, because I don't want that flour coming up. Mix that in. So it's almost mixed in. So what I'm going to do is stop my mixer, and now I'm going to add all my grated carrot. You know, carrot, you know, it has a flavor, but in the cake you don't really notice. You just have the sweetness. But I really like all the little flecks of orange. And I'm going to beat that in. Or you could just mix it by hand if you have a smaller mixer. I'll do the rest by hand. Okay, so now just as a side note, I'm making the 2-layer cake today. Sometimes I like to make this just in one, like a 9 by 13. What's that, 23 by 33? I think I got that right, centimeter pan. So you could do that. Although, of course, you're using one pan. The baking time, I find, is going to be a little longer. Like for the individual, it's kind of 25 to 30 minutes. So if you were using one, the rectangular 9 by 13, it's usually 30 to 40 minutes. So you do have alternatives here. So I'm just going to, now we're going to divide the batter between the 2 pans. try to get an equal amount. You could eyeball it if you have a scale, which you know. I'm always saying scale, weigh your ingredients, weigh everything. You will need about 775 grams per pan. Now, make sure, sometimes I forget, make sure you zero your scale before you start pouring in your batter. Okay, almost, right? A little heavy. That was a little, I'm just going to take just a little. Okay, good enough. And smooth the top. So now, everyone's oven, is a little different. Some, can be running a little hot, a little cool. It's good to get an oven thermometer, separate oven thermometers, so you can double check your calibration of your oven. But I'm going to say 25 to 30 minutes. Now, when you're putting 2 pans like this into the oven, make sure that you have like a little space in between your pans so that the air can circulate, so the cakes can really bake evenly. And I do like to, about halfway through baking, kind of turn the pans, because usually you have some hot spots in your oven. So what you're going to, your cakes won't rise a lot. Carrot cake is quite dense, but it will turn a beautiful golden brown. And a toothpick inserted into the center will come out clean, and you will just start to see the cake pulling away from the sides of the pan. So 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so our carrot cakes are done. So beautiful golden brown. You can just start to see they're pulling away from the sides of the pan. And when I use a wooden toothpick into the center, it came out clean. So put your pans on a wire rack. I'm going to let these cool 10-15 minutes. And then when we come back, we will take them out of the pan. So now to take our cake out of the pan, first take a flat edge. I got an offset spatula. You just use a knife and run it all the way around just to make sure it's not sticking. And then take a wire rack, put it over top, flip it like that. And then I just peel back that parchment paper. And then I like to re-invert so it's right side up, like so. And there we have it. Now, we have to let these cool completely before we frost them. Now, if you didn't want to, you kind of say it's too much work to do the frosting, everything in one day. What you could do, what I often do, is let these cool completely, wrap them up, and then put them into the refrigerator overnight, and then the next day you can make the frosting and fill and frost your cake. So either way, but make sure they're nice and cooled down to room temperature before you make your frosting. We're now ready to make our cream cheese frosting. So again, if you have a stand mixer, use your paddle attachment, or you could use a hand mixer for this. The first thing you will need is 7 tablespoons, which is 100 grams of butter. Have your butter at room temperature. And you could use, I'm using unsalted, but you could use salted here, whatever you want. And I'm just going to beat this just until it's smooth. Okay, scrape that down. And the next thing we need is 1.5 cups, which is 180 grams of confectioner's sugar, also known as powdered or icing sugar. And I do like to sift it because it tends to have lumps. So I'm just using a strainer. If you have an actual sifter, you could use that. Okay. And I'm just going to put that right in here. Along with 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of pure vanilla extract. That's for flavoring. Now, if you didn't want vanilla, you could add, a different type of, you could just leave it out, or you could add like maybe a little bit of almond or orange or lemon extract if you wanted a different flavor. So now I'm going to start this on low speed and then increase the speed to medium high. And I'm going to beat it a couple minutes. I want everything mixed together and I want it to be nice and light and fluffy. Okay, so it's a couple minutes. As you can see, nice and smooth. Some air in there. So scrape that down. And I'm going to now gradually add 12 ounces, which is 340 grams of regular cream cheese, full fat, not the reduced. Sorry, no, we need the full fat here. Oh, but I need to do something before that. Almost forgot. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. And that, I'm just going to beat that in. That's just going to perk up all our flavors here. So I'm just going to beat that in. Okay. So now I am going to start adding. Now you want your cream cheese to be, if you can see here, is quite soft. You want it that way. It'll be much easier to mix it in and get it nice and smooth. I'm just going to add that, beat it in, then just keep adding a little. Okay, check that. So I added all the cream cheese and then I continued to beat it for maybe another minute or two just to make sure everything's nice and smooth and creamy, like that. So good. If you wanted to color your frosting, then at this point you could add some food coloring. You don't want to waste any of this delicious frosting. Okay. So now, if you have a cake turntable like I have, it's a wonderful thing. So use that. Or, I mean, really, you can just put your cake on a serving platter, a plate. That's fine too. But if you have one of these, very handy. And because I'm using this and I have to lift my cake and after and put it on my serving plate, I like to use these cake circles. This is a 9-inch, 23 centimeter. You can buy these at like cake decorating stores, or I just buy them online. So now, I did cover and store my cake layers. Remember I was telling you about that? You could store them overnight, and that's what I did. So I just wrapped my cakes in plastic wrap, put it on a baking sheet, and put it in the fridge overnight. So now, there's 2 ways. I'm going to use the frost the top, like the bottom of the cake, so I have a flat. I mean, you don't have to. Either way, I mean, a more casual cake, you could just do it right side up. But I'm going to do it the other way. So just put your cake circle on there, and the bottom becomes the top. It would help if I put that right in the center of the... Okay, that looks good. So just put it there. And we want to put some frosting. Just a thin layer. I'm going to say maybe 3/4 of a cup, like 150 grams. I mean, we could get technical, precise and measure it out, but I'm not going to today. And then you could just use a knife, or I'm using a offset spatula, and just spread that out. Okay, so that looks good. Let's try to get an even layer. You can kind of go down and eyeball it, make sure it's even, and then we'll take our, again, we're going to turn that upside down onto, try to get it even. Kind of just gently press down to adhere the layers. Wipe my hands. And then, now you can go and do what is called a naked cake, which means you don't frost the sides, you just frost the top. But I've got lots of frosting here, and I am going to frost the sides. So I'm just going to put it all on the top. Okay. And then, again, take your knife or offset spatula. I'm just going to work that to the edge. And then just take and work it your way down. Take off the top and let's go around and cover the sides. Okay, so I've kind of got it pretty good. Just make sure you take and get the frosting right to the bottom of your cake circle or your plate. And smooth the top. Now, really, that looks great to me. That's typically a lot of times how I do it, especially just for the family. But if you want to do more, I guess what you'd call what they do in the bakeries, they have those nice smooth sides. So take a flat edge. And then you just start and see if you just go around with your straight edge until you get the sides the way you want. If it's not perfect the way you want, you can kind of go back in and fix it all up and make it smooth. But you know what? I kind of like it. It is, to me, it's, unless you're going to sell them, I like it a little rough. Okay, and then for the top, I'm just going to smooth it out because I'm going to show you another kind of fancy thing. So then just take your flat edge, the end of here, stick it into the frosting. We're going to make a spiral. And just go round and round. Again, you don't have to do this, but I think it looks pretty cool. Okay, so now it's done. I'm just going to put this into the refrigerator for it to chill, our frosting to chill, and then when we come back, we'll try a piece. So I let it chill 10-15 minutes so it's the frosting's more firm. So I think it looks pretty. I like the spiral. And it kind of, I don't need anything more. I just like to leave it like that, very simplistic. If you kind of left it plain on top, what you could do is, if say you used walnuts, then you could, decorate the top with walnut halves or pecan halves, or even crushed, if you want. But I kind of like it just like this. So the great thing about this cake is it will keep in the refrigerator for at least 5 days, which is great. And actually, I think it tastes better after a day or two because then the flavors have time to mingle and it gets a little more moist in texture. And you can freeze this cake, decorated like this. So for probably a month in the freezer. If you have like a plastic, container that's big enough to take this size cake, perfect. If you don't, I don't. So I learned this trick when I took a pastry class, is use a cake box. Put your cake in there, cover it, and then just wrap the whole box with some plastic wrap, probably a couple layers of plastic wrap. Put it in your freezer, and it's kind of nice because if you were taking it somewhere, you got the nice, looks professional cake box. And then just, if you wanted to frost your cake, do it overnight in your refrigerator. So there you go for that. Now, to cut your cake, sharp knife. Cut through, and then I don't have anything on there, but if you did, just wipe it off with a towel. I'll cut a big slice. This is quite rich. You have that cream cheese frosting, so, you know, keep that in mind. I'm going to put it this way. You can do it either way. Oh, you know, it is such a pretty cake. Very colorful, very nicely spiced, and I'll try some. I tasted it before. The cream cheese frosting is just to die for. Oh. Like I said, I know I'm dating myself, but I've been making this cake since the mid-1970s. And it's the same recipe. I love it. You know, it's very popular with my family, friends. It's so flavorful. You've got, and it's so pretty. With, you can see the orange, carrot, and then the nuts. And then you have the pineapple, the cinnamon, adds a nice flavor. And that cream cheese frosting, it's just wonderful. I mean, you could put another frosting on your carrot cake, but I don't know. Cream cheese frosting has to be on a carrot cake. So anyways, you have to try this. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.